So I have been sold or tried to be sold alkaline water in taxis 3 times by 3 different taxi drivers. And they've got this special machine where they filter the water and then they put it into these bottles and it's going to alkaline your body and you're not going to get cancer. Like they say, you're not going to get cancer if you drink alcohol. And I'm like, and then it's like, that's why in Japan, they've got these machines in all the hospitals. And I'm like, this is like just going on borderline like conspiracy theory at this point.
Apparently there's all these special kinds of water we should be drinking now.
Wild. I mean, I always think anything that you do on a day-to-day basis, if you can address and move the needle with, you are probably going to see quite a significant difference. So, you know, like things that we do on a day-to-day basis, whether that's the food that we eat, the water that we drink, where we live, you know, just our day-to-day actions, they're the things that can literally all your life and can move the needle in big ways. So yes, do I think getting the highest quality water available to you is a good idea? Like, yes, but for most people that could just be tap water filtered. You know, it doesn't necessarily need to be, I think you've got a list here, haven't you, of all the
alkaline water, hydrogen water.
So I was saying before, wasn't it?
Ionized water.
The different types of water, like what did you just say? You said
ionized?
No, the one before.
Hydrogen? Alkaline?
Alkaline. Being sold or tried to be sold alkaline water in taxis 3 times by 3 different taxi drivers. And they've got this special machine where they filter the water and then they put it into these bottles and it's going to alkaline your body and you're not going to get cancer. Like they say, you're not going to get cancer if you drink alcohol. And I'm like, and then it's like, that's why in Japan, they've got these machines in all the hospitals. And I'm like, this is like just going on borderline like conspiracy theory at this point. And yeah, you know, it's one of them, and I think it's like a buzzword, and people want to like try and sell you this, sell you that. But for like most people, I think it's just like your tap water filtered is going to be like as good as you get.
Let's just get into this alkaline thing though, because again, it's one of those where there's a teeny tiny grain of something that's then just been blown out of proportion. So people claim it's anti-aging, it's going to stop you getting cancer, it's going to stop you getting heart disease. But actually, there are tiny bits of studies that show some links to some benefits. Yeah. There's even one that shows increased bone density in perimenopausal women with alkaline diet and alkaline water intake. So it's not complete fallacy. However, they are very individual studies that maybe aren't the best design, and also they don't stand up against the rest of the body of evidence. They also don't stand up against the fact, like water, if we're just talking about alkaline water, the only thing about it is it's got a higher pH than your tap water. So it's less acidic, more alkaline, right? But the fact is, your body is so clever. Whatever you eat or whatever you drink, it's not going to change the state of your body that much, because your body has to stay within very strict parameters to be able to function. So for your body to function well, it needs to stay within a range of 7.35 to 7.45 pH. That's very, very small. Yeah. If you drink some alkaline water, your body is going to have to work to deal with it, but that's not going to change the pH of your body. Yeah. So it's really important to understand that you're not going to be able to change the pH of your blood by like drinking a few bottles of special water, and you probably don't need to either. Yeah. I think a lot of the reason that this whole thing has become a thing is because alkaline water naturally is just because of where it comes from. If we think about like a spring water, like the spring water that travels over certain rocks and picks up certain minerals, that happens to be more alkaline. Now, the minerals that happen to make it more alkaline are calcium, potassium, magnesium. Right. Which we've just talked about being really good for you. They're electrolytes. Like you need them to function well, for your brain to spark, for your muscles to work. So actually, when we put 2 and 2 together, we think, these alkaline waters contain more of these minerals, and those minerals are essential for health. So it must be that we need alkaline water. It's not actually the case. Yeah. So I think when you actually really understand why people are putting these 2 and 2s together and making 7, you can just go straight to source and say, hey, okay, I get it. I need calcium, potassium, magnesium. I'm going to eat some dairy and some bananas and some Brazil nuts. Yeah. So please don't waste your money giving it over to taxi drivers for bottles of water.
Yeah, and I but you know, just coming back to like the quality of the water as well. Like if the tap water that you get in where you live is safe and it can be filtered, for most people, like especially in the UK, that's going to be like a great way of the water that you're getting.
Yeah.
In some places, yeah, like even when we go like abroad, we go to places in Europe, it says like don't drink the tap water. So, you know, I think like being mindful of that. But most people, if you're getting like bottled water or you're getting tap water that you can filter, you're probably getting like pretty high quality water at that point. Yeah.
If you do live in a developed country, there is going to be things like the Environment Protection Agency or, you know, there'll be regulations that need to be met in terms of the safety of the water. And there's debate, especially in the US, because states have their own ability to interpret those regulations. So maybe some states might be more safe than other states drinking water. But if you have any concerns, like you said, filtration is an option. And I think the concern in some places, some countries, some areas is also, you know, what about the pesticides and chemicals that are being used on the fields and that running into the water supply? What about bacteria? What about fluoride being added, which it was added, I don't even know when they started doing it. I want to say like the 60s maybe. They started adding it to drinking water because they realised it was so good for teeth. And we don't generally get enough of it in our diets. But there is now more and more evidence coming out to say like high levels of fluoride can affect brain function. So there's a little bit of hesitancy there. And I get it. If the science isn't conclusive, then maybe err on the side of caution.
It also makes water taste a bit nicer. Have you ever drank like actual plain water with
that's not necessarily the fluoride though. That's just the filtration.
The other side of things that are in it. But yeah, I think again it's doing a little bit of due diligence, but like most people, the tap water will be fine, and if you can filter it, that's going to make it even better.
Definitely. But I mean, you also don't need to filter it generally.
Yeah. I do find that when you say stuff like this, especially like things are very different in the UK than they are to like the States.
Yeah.
And if
we are.
Yeah, if you were to say something like, oh, tap water's fine in the US, like anytime I've gone to like LA or certain states, people like just bite my head off for that, like don't drink the tap water. And it's like, yeah, like if the water is bad in your state or county and you know that, then yes, you know, take a little bit of responsibility and either filter the water or use bottled water or do whatever you've got to do. My caution on bottled water as well to an extent, not that I've got anything against bottled water, but a lot of people buy crates of bottled water and leave it in the car.
Oh, yeah.
And like the sun's just like beaming on the car and like beaming in the plastics, and the plastics are getting into the water because they leave them there for months, or they reuse the same bottled water again and again and again, and more plastics do get into the water. And that's something just to be wary of if you're using bottled water on a regular basis.